Have you ever spent hours learning something on a guitar only to forget it just a few days later? After 27 years of gigging and teaching, I've learned thousands of songs, but I've only truly memorized a tiny fraction, and honestly, it's frustrating. So I've spent hours digging into the science of memory to understand how we actually retain things and why so much of what we learn ends up feeling like a waste of time. So in this video, you'll learn the science-backed methods that guarantee lasting recall, why you keep forgetting things that you've already learned, and what you can start doing now to memorize everything you learn in the future. After watching, grab the list of all the key points as a reminder. It's linked in the description. To start, let me show you the first steps to memorizing music faster. It starts with the concept I borrowed called the 3 R's of memory. When I look at the songs I have memorized, one pattern stands out in how I learn them. I remember I had 30 songs in a week to learn for a function band when I was still teaching full time, so I didn't have hours to practice. But I managed it. But how? I remember figuring out music with no sheet music, no tabs, just listening, breaking things down and building from there, only using my ear. I did write notes down and some tabs to help me on more difficult sections. It wasn't the easiest route and definitely not what everyone can do, but working out by ear has certainly made everything stick quicker in other songs. If you can learn it this way, I'd start here. But don't worry, I've got more strategies in this video to suit whatever level you're at. Now, even though I'd learnt most of those songs by ear, I was still making one huge mistake when it comes to actually remembering them. But what was it? Well, I had 30 songs in a set. I had to practice every waking moment before work, between students, after work, just to get to the level where I could perform without needing any music in front of me. I got through it with just a few mistakes. But the crazy thing was, if you'd asked me just 4 weeks later to play the same set, I would have struggled. But why? I was trying to cram in too much, hoping it would stick. Cramming doesn't work for long-term memory. Instead, you need to focus on small chunks of information and just repeat them consistently. That's how you make it stick. But how we learn is only one part of the puzzle. So let's move on to the second R. Most people think repeating something with their hands is enough, but like I've discovered, it's not. Memory isn't just physical, it's multi-sensory. Memorizing music is like a dot-to-dot puzzle. At first, it looks like a bunch of just random notes. That's the song riff we're trying to learn. But when you start connecting these dots, the picture becomes clear. And the more dots you connect, the easier it is to see and remember the whole thing. So how do we connect those dots? First, I'd listen. No guitar, no playing, just soaking in the phrasing, rhythm and feel. Then I'd zoom into just a small part, like a few chords, the intro, solo, and then loop it. I use a software called Transcribe for this, where you can slow things down and then loop tricky sections. There's a link in the description, and if you use Dean5 at checkout, you get a 5% discount. Next, look at the tabs, or watch someone else play it on YouTube. Whatever helps you visualize what you're learning. Then I'd imagine playing on the fretboard. This step is huge for memory, even without the guitar in your hands. Finally, I'll pick up the guitar and play it slowly in small chunks. I use something called the 1-2-3 game, which I've got a full video on, and I'll link that also in the description. Now we're combining listening, seeing, and playing. But even with all that, we're still missing one piece. We've connected the dots, but to make them stick long term, we need to add depth. We need to give that picture some colour. And I do that by writing answers to the following questions. What key is the piece in? What chords are used? What scale fits over it? What's the structure of the song? What's the tempo? Why do we do this? Because the more ways we interact with the same bit of information, the deeper it sticks. Sometimes I'll even say the note name, the interval, or fret numbers out loud. Or even write out the tab by hand. The more you do, the better. But now we move on to the third R, retrieving, which is the most crucial because without it, what you've recorded and retained is useless. Do you remember riding a bike with stabilizers? Everything felt easy because you knew you were safe. But the moment they came off, you fell, you cut your knees and your floods of tears happened. That was a mistake many make when learning songs. They never really take off the stabilizers. You read tabs, you watch videos, you play along, but that's playing with support. The moment you take those supports away, that's when the real learning happens. So now when I learn something, on day 1 I'd use the music, the tab or the video. Day 2 I try to play it without any of those, purely from memory. And here's the thing, you don't have to do this forever. In fact, doing this daily for life wouldn't be practical or wise either. So what else do we need to do? Well, I was in a function band for 6 years, gigging all over the country. Our set list changed sometimes, but we had a core group of songs that we played for years. Now here's the crazy part. I haven't gigged with that band for 4 years, but I still can remember the majority of those songs. But I can't remember the songs that I learned like 4 weeks ago. But why? Our gigs were seasonal. Sometimes we played weekly, other times every couple of weeks, and occasionally there'll be a gap of a month or two. That natural spacing meant we had to revisit our set list at different intervals, and by coming back to the songs after varying length of time, we were actually reinforcing them into our memory, helping them stick for the long term without even realising it. This is a science-backed method called spaced repetition, and you can do this too. Once you've learnt something, leave it a couple of days, then a week, a couple of weeks, a month, and keep making that distance bigger. This one trick alone has saved me from relearning the same songs over and over again. The most songs I've memorised have come from a combination of all 6 points, but the 7th point is the icing on the cake. A student wanted to learn a song. I figured it out by ear, I wrote it down, explained the chords, the theory behind the song, broke it down into little steps, and finally I taught it to someone else. Teaching something deepens your understanding of that thing, because you're constantly finding new ways to explain it, since not everyone learns the same way. So I would highly recommend, once you learn something, to try and teach it to someone. If you can't find anyone, try this. Send a tip to a mate or pretend you're making a little mini YouTube video about it. Write a short tutorial or summary. Record yourself actually teaching something. So don't forget to grab a list with all these points in the description. But if you're short on practice time, you have to make every minute count. So watch this video next and I'll show you a simple method to make your practice feel so addictive it's like a game, and your playing will skyrocket because of it. See you over there.